It is a certain time of year when educators are completing report cards and the emails begin to come because the students, all of a sudden, it hits them. This is my grade. Then they want to make up all of the late assignments. And I'm like, look, where have you been for the last 7, 8, 9 weeks? Listen, this is Anne Marie, host of About This Life. About This Life is a show. What we try to do is we take a look at our belief system. We take a look at who we are and we wonder what is it that we might need to let go of? What is it that we need to change, to adjust, to do that mindset shift in order for us to thrive, in order for us to move on with our lives and do so, bring a little piece of heaven here on earth. This afternoon, I have as a distinct pleasure to have a guest. His name is Olaolu Ogunyemi. Welcome, Olaolu.
Hey, thank you so much, Anne Marie. I mean, you started off right in like the heart of where I am as a parent, because as I was telling you in the pre-show, I have a teenager and a preteen. So that's high school and middle school. And man, God bless you, educators
Mm-mm-mm.
out there. I got to start there because you hit the nail on the head. We are in that phase where we know the projects to do, we know the homeworks due, and we don't decide to do it. So these are the things that I'm living right now. So thank to all the parents out there that are living it. Please, please just thank your educator for all the stress that we put them through with our children.
Okay. I understand it. So what I hear you saying, Ola Ulu, is that send prayers up both sides. Send us prayers.
Please.
Send us prayers. We need your prayers, everybody. Let me formally introduce you, the guest of honor today. You are a loving husband, father. Okay, ladies who are watching, he's taken. He's taken. He's a mentor, award-winning writer, and he is a U.S. Marine officer. Oh my goodness, all the things, all the things. You have a deep passion for working with children and with developing leaders, developing leadership, and we'll get a little bit into that in terms of your whole philosophy around servant leadership. But great place to begin is to talk about your books. You have books for young people. What are your books? Tell us about your books.
Absolutely. So I started off with my first book called Crow from the Shadow. And the reason I love that book so much, it actually did win an award, and it's my most popular and successful book. But most importantly, I enjoy it because it really speaks my life story. So the
Mhm.
shadow, I loosely define that in the story as a person, place, or thing that tells you you cannot be what you want to be. And I had the pleasure of reading this story to my daughter's first grade class here recently. And I thought it was just amazing to see their faces when I start telling them, oh, the shadow says that I can't do this, but I like to do this. The shadow said I like to play, I can't play sports, but I love basketball, and so on and so forth. Until you get to the end, and this is where the crow
Oh,
decides,
don't
wait,
give it away. Don't give it away.
oh, don't give it
Don't
away?
give
Okay,
all
well, I
away.
won't give it away. But I will say that really the gist of the story is to realize how you can overcome your shadow. And that's really the biggest thing for that book. And then I have two more. One, Billy Dipper's Time to Shine. That's all about never forgetting your worth. And the
Okay,
last one,
hold up,
oh,
pause for a moment.
okay, yes,
Because
ma'am.
I'm still unpacking the first one.
Okay.
Because in certain communities, when we say shadow, shadow and light, we are really taking a look at the darker sides of us, those places that we keep hidden, and so on and so forth. Are we speaking about that in your book or no? Are you coming from a different perspective? Do share.
Yeah, that's a phenomenal question. Thank you so much. And yes, that's exactly what I'm talking about. I'm talking about that inner critic. And the reason I left it a little vague is because the idea is that a parent, teacher, or mentor sits down with the child and walks them through it. So as I read through the book and they start to identify with the crow, and then they start to try to give a face to the shadow, understand what that
Mhm.
shadow is, And the biggest thing by the end of the story that I want the parent or the adult to bring out with the child is what is that shadow for them? And what I've learned in all my feedback that I've
Mhm.
received from parents and teachers, the shadow's been many things. It's been where a child feels like they're from. They feel like they couldn't do something because they're from a certain area. One parent even told me that their child said that they were the shadow for their child, which I thought was amazing. Some of it
Wow.
could be a misunderstanding of the story a little bit, to understanding that the shadow is stopping you from doing something. But then when they started having this conversation, and this is a 6-year-old, they started having this engaging conversation. She realizes that she was a bit of the child's shadow. She was the person who was stopping him from growing and developing because she was trying to help to protect him and help to guide him throughout the work,
Mhm.
throughout the day. So it was an amazing conversation. And so you'll see that the shadow takes many forms, but yes, it is that inner critic. It's that deeper voice that we're trying to help children start to identify and put a name to.
I'm not good enough. That inner critic that says I'm not good enough. Why a crow? Is
Yeah,
that purposeful in terms of metaphor, imagery? Tell us about choosing that particular species of bird.
you're asking all the right questions, Emery. I really appreciate
Yes.
that. I love it because the crow, I chose it. And it was funny because I went back and forth. My brother illustrated this book for me, and we went back and forth. He's like, why would you choose a crow? And we started talking about it. I told him for a few reasons. Number one, a crow is a very misunderstood animal, right? The crow, the only thing we know about it is that it goes out, it picks through our trash, it does all, it makes all this noise and so on and so forth. And we just don't understand why it's doing that. Some of us don't know how intelligent crows are. Crows, for example, can actually remember your face when they see you. If you haven't
Mm,
noticed that when people are feeding birds, sometimes we just think it's a habit. Well, no, some of these crows are actually memorizing your face. So when you throw something at it, there's studies that show a crow actually remembered the person who may have thrown something at him, and so on and so forth. And so when I chose a crow, the crow was really symbolic of all of us. It's number one, we're out here just trying to survive in many ways. Number two, we're always judged by somebody else based upon what they see us doing. They see us
right.
like a crow, see us picking through the trash, and in our case, sometimes we see a child acting out, and we see them doing things that we think that they shouldn't be doing, and instead of getting to the root cause of why they're doing it, we just say, oh, just whatever, put him in the back of the classroom, or he's not going to be, he's just like his dad, or he's just like this, or whatever we do. We never take the time, just like the crow, to understand the bird. And I always challenge people when we talk about the crow. I say, has anybody really looked up what a baby crow looks like? And I
Mm,
laugh because many people have no idea what a baby crow looks like. It's not an animal that we've taken time to get to know. And so that's really the main reason I chose it. And the other reason is because throughout the book, the message is it continues to come out of the story. And it says, never, ever forget your worth, number one. And number two, only one can determine your future. And that one is you, the person who
is
is reading the
you.
book, holding the book. And that's what the
And
crow. So every time they see a crow, I want them to think about that.
I think about the crow, for example, in the poem The Raven by Edgar Allan Poe.
Hmm.
And they are often negative qualities are attributed to the crow. So there's a moral and a lesson to be learned from your story, from your book. Now go ahead and tell us the second book. We ready.
I love it. I appreciate it. The second book is called Billy Dipper's Time to Shine. And that book is all about never forgetting your worth. Because what you'll see in the story is you have this character, and actually is a direct contrast from the crow. So this character is actually one of those who feels like he's very confident throughout the story. And then his parents are proud of him. He's doing well. And then all of a sudden, he has this event happen. He's supposed to be doing this big thing. He's been looking forward to it. And then an event happens, and now he's dealing with these outside pressures, people making fun of him and things of that nature. And he had to remember, his parents had to remind him that you can never, ever forget your worth that you bring to the earth. And then he was able to turn that message around and give it to someone else. So that's what Billy Dipper's Time to Shine is all about. It's really about understanding that we bring value to other people on earth. And as long as we decide to shine, and that's what it's talking about. It's talking about the star that refused to fade. And this is again talking about astronomy and helping children to introduce. That's something I didn't talk about in my first book. I do have fun facts about crows in the first book, and I have fun facts about astronomy me in Billy Dipper's Time to Shine, because again, this is helping children begin to engage with stories and hopefully helping them remember something that comes from the story so they can continue to engage with stories and understand and read so they can comprehend what they're reading. So that's what Billy Dipper's Time to Shine is all about. It's just about being able to shine and not allowing anyone else to dim your light.
Absolutely. And I am going to ask you a question. I'm going to go there.
Mhm.
I'm going to go there
Please.
and bring a little bit of realism, real life application to it, because I assume it's still present in your generation. I can remember growing up in my generation, the thought that, and I'm speaking to you as a Black male,
Mhm.
and that is the thought that there are some young people who are intelligent and are gifted, but they hide it.
Mm,
They hide it to fit in.
mm,
They hide it because people tease them that they're acting differently, as though it's a sin to be intelligent.
mm.
Okay? How do you, considering how you just described your book that you've written in terms of the main character shines and is proud of who he is, or her, how do you relate to that fact that there's still some people who feel like they have to hide who they are lest somebody minimize them or make fun of them? Can you speak to that a little bit?
Absolutely. And I'll give my personal story. So I grew up as that young man. And when I
Hmm.
tell people my story and I tell people that I could have been in prison had it not been for my dad and mom continually to work with me, it doesn't compute with a lot of people when they meet me. They're like,
Yes.
that doesn't, I can't see that. But the reason I was like that is because I truly wanted to fit in. My name was Olaolu Ogunyemi in Ruston, Louisiana. All right. And that's not necessarily where that doesn't help you fit in. I was overweight as a
Yes.
child. I had a gap in my mouth that I was very insecure about, and it was just constantly things. And people don't realize this. And I say people because I'm not just talking about children. It's even the adults in your life at times when people are coming up and saying, "Man, you sure are eating good." You know, you see that in our community a lot, and they make these comments, and you don't realize that just throughout the day they were made fun of by all their friends. That was my story. Made fun of by my friends. And then I get to church and somebody's like, man, look at you. You're getting plump, aren't you? That's just one more person. Now I got excuse me, I have adults and I have children at school. Everybody seems to be making fun of me, except there
Hmm.
was one group who's willing to accept me. And these are the guys who I was growing up with. These are the guys that, as long as I can do something that's just a little bit more crazy than they would, then they
Hmm.
accept me as one of them. And I should use accepting in air quotes, especially for the young people listening. In my mind, they were accepting me because, hey, they love me. They love Lou.
Right, right.
These are my buddies, these are my friends, these are my boys. And this is how I felt. I felt like I was a part of something. And I think that's where we lose our identity because I was very intelligent. My straight A's was a thing in our home because my brothers, I have five siblings. My brothers and sisters, they always had straight A's. It was always a competition, and
The
abuse just wasn't
expectation.
a thing. It was the expectation. All right. But then you start getting these awards and you see your buddies are sitting in the back row. They're not getting anything. They're like, oh, look at you. Oh, here he goes. And I'm like, man, why do I want to even do this? And if it weren't for teachers investing time with me and an assistant principal, for example, when I was in middle school, again, God bless you.
Hmm.
When I was in middle school, the assistant principal brought me in for one thing that I did when she could have kicked me out of school that day, and that could have changed the trajectory of my life. And she said, "You know what? I should be kicking you out of school, but I'm gonna give you one more chance." And I don't know what it was about that, about her saying that this time. I don't know if it was because I was so scared of my dad or my mom, what they may do at home. I don't know what it was, but it was something about her telling me that helped me to shift my perspective. And that's where it was one of those things that it's like, okay, I can't keep doing this. I can't keep doing this just to show out. And what I had to do then is I had to find another place to fit my identity because right then in my life, I was trying to identify as the young man I was hanging around just because they were accepting me. And I believe that's what it's all about. It's about identity.
How do you develop that exterior? protection. Because naturally, when you're young, you want to fit in and you want
Mhm.
to have the street cred. So speak to the idea that, but it's every person's desire, even when we're adults and we're grown, we want to fit in, we want to belong. But at some point along the way, you have to make a decision to ignore. So in your story, I heard you say that that assistant principal gave you another chance.
Mhm.
How did you, I'm sure the teasing didn't stop. So what did you do to buffer yourself against that? You're given a second chance, you're making different choices, but I'm sure some teasing is going on. How do you protect your vulnerability in that regard?
Yeah, perfect question. So the one thing that I started doing is I started becoming more invested in extracurricular activities. So I, instead of me just trying to fit in, doing things, one of the things that we always talk about is out of mind makes us off behind. It
Yeah,
rhymes,
yeah.
but the problem that is once you don't have, if you don't have something that you're a part of, or you feel like you can fit in that environment, then you will go somewhere else where you can fit in. And so in this case, I use basketball and I use sports. And once I started getting involved in that, and my church had drill team, I started getting involved in the drill team, and I
Mhm.
started becoming more involved. Now I have other groups that accepted me, and this is why it's important for us to have these kind of programs around and these kind and coaches who are passionate about this, because it helps to extend the home. It helps to extend the home when the parent is saying one thing at home, and then you get to the basketball team, and the coach is like, "Okay, you made the team." And you start acting up, and the coach comes to you and he happens to walk by the classroom and see
Right.
one of his players acting up, and he says, "Okay, I saw you acting up in class." Everybody's going to run, right? And it was once you start having that ownership, now it's like, whoa, okay, now we have something different to play for. We have something different to be a part of. And I think that's probably the biggest part of my transformation. That's what helped me. It was finding new identity elsewhere. It was finding an idea of knowing that I'm worth more. And that what I also learned as a young man, because I was in middle school, and I started
Hmm.
to understand my Christianity a little bit more. And because I'm a Christian. I always advocate for
Yes
spiritual
and amen.
wellness. And that's the thing. And I've always told people is like once you start to build that relationship with God for yourself, I believe that's what truly helped me to start saying, okay, I'm better than that. I can, it's not just me saying trying to resist it on my own because that was me failing. It was me saying that I have a bigger purpose. Maybe I should be trying to guide them. And what happened over the years is we started separating, and it just because I wanted to do these other things, and I wanted to actually now do good. I wanted to be good at school. I wanted to be good at sports. I wanted to do all these wonderful things. My church was influencing
Right.
me to get up and speak and things of that nature. So again, I believe that it was all about the community around me. It wasn't just something that I was able to do as an individual. It's about the people who had programs and things in place that helped to develop me and bring me out.
Okay, so we're talking about the village raising a child.
Mhm.
You have a third book. What's the
I
title
do.
of your third book?
The third the third book is called Horace the Horsefly. Now, this one is actually a little bit more of a fun and exciting book. It's for my younger readers, so age 2 to 5. You just hear animal sounds, sight words. It's not as thematic as the other books. It's just the horsefly that got sick and he's walking around to say good morning to his friends. And so that's the fun part about it. And this was just my child at my youngest was 3 at the time, and it was my attempt to create something that I connect with her on and just to spark her love for reading because I believe that love for reading is just one of many ways to connect with children.
You say it's not thematic, but you're turning it upside down because I think about horse flies. Nobody wants the horse flies, right? You're making it something positive. Uh, is that your motivation for writing your children? And we did a pre-show, but tell us the ages of your children and tell us your motivation for writing.
Absolutely. So, number one, yes, they are the motivation from my writing. My oldest is 16, my son is 11, and my youngest daughter is 6. I'm a young parent. I started off, and I love being transparent about this. I graduated from high school. I was 22, and I was married with a 3-year-old. And so I had no idea, excuse me, not high school, college. I had no idea what I was doing And what I really started to realize is that I had to start creating connection with them. And so over time, I'm like, okay, what can I do to connect? So my first child, because I was so young, the only thing I can think of is protect her, be there for her, and you everything, do everything with your girl. You know, you want to do this, and she's the first, so
Right.
I'm learning. And so I was just in my way of connecting was to do whatever she wanted. I mean, I was one of those dads that was in Chuck E. Cheese and the ballroom. I was
Girl
everywhere.
dad.
No, I was, and it paid off in the long run because we have that connection now. But what I started thinking is that when the moments I loved with my mom, for example, were sitting down and reading a story, and she brought stories to life. We could read Hop on Pop or any of those books, and my mom,
Yeah.
she would just bring them to life. She'd make it so exciting for us. And so it was hard for us not to enjoy reading, except when my dad seemed to make it a chore. But for the most part, we loved reading. We engaged with stories, and all of us now have decided to publish books. All of us have gone on to have higher education and so on and so forth. And I don't think that's a coincidence. I believe it's because, just
Mm.
like I'm trying to do with my children, is to establish a connection with them and just have an enjoyable moment through a story. And more importantly, it creates a teachable experience as well. So, yeah, they definitely are the motivation for my stories.
Absolutely. And for a family to enjoy reading, imagine that. What we would do, and how that would change the trajectory within the school building in terms of a child coming in already having appreciation for the art because of the experience. It creates something warm and fuzzy that we can tap into. I love it. I love it. And in addition to being a dad and a loving husband and Marine Corps, are you still in the Marine? Are you
I
still
am.
okay? In addition to all of those things that you do, there's this idea of servant leadership. One of the things that we can encounter, whether we work in corporate or the educational system or own our own business, is the thought that it's so oftentimes top down. You know, I'm the boss, so I get to say what happens. What is this concept behind servant leadership? How can I be a servant and a leader?
So I had to learn this, and I actually just published an article talking about does servant leadership make us soft? Because that was the conversation I had with some of my colleagues in the Marine
Mhm.
Corps. Because we're trying to work through the tension with having these soft skills and trying to be more empathetic and be more emotionally intelligent and understand what that all means when it relates to servant leadership. But one thing we can all agree on is that the best leaders are those who serve the people they lead. And when I say that, I mean they are the ones who legitimately find a way to provide resources for them to grow, an environment for them to
Mhm.
thrive in. And that's one of the things that I've learned as a leader. I started off my career in the Marine Corps as a young guy who just wanted to like make things happen. I didn't know much about the Marine Corps when I joined. I always tell
Mhm.
people I knew two Marines. It was Gunny Ermey from Full Metal Jacket and Major Payne. And so I had no idea what the Marine Corps is
Look
all
at a
about.
frame of reference.
That's it. That's all I knew. And so it's amazing when I first got to my unit and I'm trying to like figure out my leadership style and I'm going through this new way of trying to find my identity in the Marine Corps. Then I became an operations officer. And that's when I really found myself in a position where I was like, okay, well, they said operations officers are like the bulldogs. You know, you're going to get stuff done.
Okay.
And that's what I was acting like. I was in there acting like a bulldog. I'm just fussing at people, telling them, you will get this done because the commanding officer said so. And what I realized in that moment, in reflection, and luckily I had a good mentor who pulled me in, is that people were doing what I said because they had to, but they were not doing it because I influenced them to do something, and they definitely weren't going to do it when I wasn't around. So they were doing it because I was nagging, and so that I started thinking about that concept. It's like, okay, how can I find myself as a leader? How can I be a better
Mhm.
person and get to understand the people I'm leading? Well, first of all, I need to get rid of all the things that I thought was leadership. You know, no matter what movies I saw, no matter
Unlearn
who,
what
what
you
kind of
learned.
unlearn what I learned because it wasn't right. And I had to just break it all the way down to what I found about the best leaders, and that is they really do enjoy serving others. And I actually just published a Bible plan, a part of YouVersion Bible app, and that what it's talking about is the upside down leader, and it's talking about us taking time to do things that were maybe considered dirty and maybe considered beneath us or insignificant. And in those moments, we truly empower somebody else to do great things. So that's what servant leadership is all about for me. I really love the idea of it, and I've been studying it here recently for the last several years just to become a better leader myself
Mhm.
and so I can help encourage others.
And the encouragement comes, one of the things that I realized from servant leadership is the idea of humility.
Mhm.
First of all, it teaches you humility because you're just, in there just as everyone else. And the common goal is to get the job done, get the task done. And there's no ego with that. In terms of humility, it also teaches camaraderie. Okay, if that person is willing to do that for me, that makes impact. You use the word influence, it also makes impact. Speak about that from a God perspective, because just as Jesus came in to serve us, he's King of Kings, Lord of Lords, my Lord, who is above him. But yes, he's here teaching us the very model of servant leadership. So make that connection for our listeners.
Oh, absolutely. So one of my favorite stories in the Bible, it's ironically, it shouldn't be my favorite because I'm not a huge fan of feet, right? But my what I
Right.
read in the Bible, I was reading the Bible and I recognized that there's a story of Jesus washing feet. And a lot of
Hmm.
times we sort of gloss over that because we're like, okay, it's something we've even made a little bit of a tradition at times. But what was crazy about that is that there was a class system in place, and the people who were responsible for washing
Hmm.
feet were like your lower class, your slaves, the servants. They were responsible for washing feet. And to make it worse, foot washing was not just a symbolic thing, it was actually a practical thing because they walked around all day. Their feet were nasty, they were probably sweaty, and so on and
Yes.
so forth.
Sandals.
Yeah, exactly. And so the my favorite part about this story when it comes to servant leadership is that Jesus did this intentionally. He did it to teach a lesson. And it's a lesson we're still talking about 2000 plus years later now because it was such a profound way of looking at life. Jesus said, "Okay, well, yes, I am the guy. I have already identified myself as the Messiah. I've already identified myself as the greatest one. Now I'm going to get on my knees and I'm going to do something that you need in this moment. You need your feet washed. And so I'm going to do it for you. No matter who I told you I was,
Yes.
I'm going to get on my knees and wash your feet." And it was so crazy that one of his disciples pushed back on it. He's like, "No, Joe, absolutely not. You're not going to
Hmm.
wash my feet." And he said, "Well, no, I'm going to wash your feet. Sit
I'm going to
down and
wash your
hush."
feet.
And the last part that I found that was even more crazy, and this is what gives me a lot of hope, and it reminds me of our purpose in life, is that he washed Judas's feet as well. And one
Mm.
of the things that sometimes we forget is that Jesus knew Judas was going to betray him. He had already said it by this time in the story. Yet he got on his knees and washed this man's feet. And that just taught us a lesson that we truly are here to serve others. It doesn't matter how they do what they do with
Mm.
our service. It doesn't matter how bad you think they are treating you. Our job is to serve them and to make life better for them and make them grow in whatever environment it is. And I think at times it's going to be tough. It would be super tough for
It
me.
is tough. It
It would be
is tough.
really hard if I knew
Olaolu
somebody was
is
going to
tough.
betray me. Could you imagine? Huh, could you imagine
It
you've
is
walked around with somebody? Oh my
tough.
goodness. And he's going to betray you. So
And
I
he's
just thought
he's
that was
gonna
profound.
betray you. But let's bring it on
Mhm.
a positive. Have you taken a moment and washed the feet of your wife?
I
Have you
have.
washed her feet?
Mhm.
And from a personal perspective, because the very act is, I want to use the word intimacy. It's an intimate act.
Mhm.
Yet I don't want to put words in your mouth. So I want you to describe what that is like in terms of that connection with your wife.
Well, first of all, it's a thing as I just alluded to before I even started. I'm not a huge fan of feet. So the first thing, the first thing for me is it's telling myself that it doesn't matter what you're a huge fan of. it goes back to that original thought that you give what is needed in that moment. You serve your wife, in this case, the way she needs to be served in that moment. And if that means washing her feet, and not just washing it, but that means taking oil and rubbing her feet, because it's not just it's the practicality of it. Number one, because we've been up on our feet
Hmm.
walking around. She's been tired, especially when she was pregnant with my children. It's been, I mean, she needed that in that moment. But it's the ability to know that, hey, you have somebody here. I'm here for you no matter what. I don't care how bad it looks, how bad it feels. You may think it feels to me on it externally, but internally, I'm always going to be here for you. I'm your soulmate. That's how we connect. And that's what I believe that feet washing and feet rubbing is all about. It's about establishing that connection. And that's why I always talk about skin to skin contact as much as possible,
Hmm.
both with your partner, your spouse, and with your children. But it's skin to skin whenever possible, because that just it's like you're transferring a little bit more than just the conversation that you may have. And I've had way more heartfelt conversations, whether it be rubbing feet or rubbing shoulders or just sitting there holding someone. My wife, it's not someone. I'm sorry. Let me correct that. Holding my wife or children. Uh, that I have in just a normal conversation. And so that intimacy that you're talking about, it does exist, from washing and rubbing and being close and with your person, your spouse.
And let's break it down on another level, even before we move on to the next part of this conversation. And that is, there are some people, um, you have a woman who might brag, okay, my man washes my feet. Okay, and that's a certain spirit. Or you might have the man say, yeah, I'm not going to do that, but, macho, so on and so forth. So that is a worldly perspective.
Mhm.
And, the show is about our mindsets and making shifts. Think about it through a spiritual perspective. You touched upon it, and you spoke upon how it's relational and connection to the woman that you love, to the woman that you are married to. Think about it from a spiritual. Why is it a sacred act?
Oh, absolutely. So again, as we look at exemplifying Jesus and everything that he did, number one, we're seeing that if we are truly committed to being like him, we have to do the acts for the reasons that did the acts. And so it's not necessarily just the act of washing feet. It's the fact that we want
Mhm.
to be more like him. And we're teaching, in a way, we're teaching our loved one that this is what your relationship with God looks like. So in a way, we're now helping
Yes.
them to grow closer to God, because now we're showing them we're being, as you mentioned earlier, that piece of heaven on earth. We're providing that for somebody else because we are now exemplifying who he is on this earth for our spouse or for our children. And I believe that's really the way that it becomes spiritual, is that you're now connecting with the person that you didn't even know existed. And I always think of this like a triangle. I learned this in marriage counseling, that there's, no matter where we are in a triangle, as long as we have
Mhm.
at the apex, we have God there, then no matter what happened throughout the day, we can connect on a spiritual level. And that's strong, because when you're starting to go, it seems like you're
Yeah,
you're going crazy, and you could be going on the bottom of the triangle in opposite directions, and that's a real thing. But at the end of the day, if you have God at the apex where you
you
can
come
now
together.
connect, you can come back together. And that's really how the spiritual ties into this whole idea of washing feet or serving your loved ones.
Yes, and one of my favorite stories in the Bible is Mary, as in Mary and Martha. And Mary comes and she sits at Jesus' feet, and she's the one that's washing his feet and pouring the perfume on his feet, in terms of serving her Lord. Let's bring it back full circle, because you do coaching, you write books, serve it. First of all, you version. Tell our listeners what you version is.
Oh yeah, so YouVersion is a Bible app for those who don't know. In fact, in November of 2025, they're celebrating their 1 billionth download, which I think is amazing.
Mhm.
So they declared November 2025 Global Bible Month. And so What you'll see on the app, if you were to search for parent-child-connect, you'll see all of my plans there. I have plans for teenagers where we just talk through how to grow your relationship with God while getting over or overcoming temptations. I have plans for dysfunctional family or growing through this dysfunction. I have plans for growing through distractions, and it's called distractions causing distance from God and the people we love. So you'll see a lot of plans, and
Hmm.
again, we intentionally made it wide ranging, so that way, no matter what your situation is, you can use those plans to grow. But it's not just my plans. There's probably thousands of
Tons.
plans on the YouVersion Bible app,
Yes.
and again, it's an amazing way to study. They have a verse of the day. If nothing else, I think it's good
Hmm.
to use that verse of the day, play the video, and just you can have about 10 minutes of your time just studying God's word and meditating on what He's providing you in that word.
Yeah, they have tons of study plans. So without giving away the store, without telling us the whole thing, because we want people to go to YouVersion and we want them to select it. Any one of those three areas that you mentioned in terms of your plans, can you give us a little teaser, a little example of what you talk about, what you get into?
Oh, absolutely. So I'll use the latest one, which is called the Upside Down Leader. It's exactly what we just described. It's called servant
Hmm.
leadership. It's 30 days to impact is what we did. So this is the entire 30 days long. It's about probably about 5 to 10 minutes is about how much time it'll take each day. But it's just time to just study and learn how to become a more impactful leader at home, at work, and wherever else you go. Another one of my favorites, is talking about a seasons change.
Hmm.
We're always talking about that our God stays the same no matter what the season is. But we realize that seasons do change. And so me and one of my co-authors, his name is Ben Fields, we talked about what it is to move and when it's time to move and when do we know it's time to stay in the same location and grow and thrive.
Yes.
We had varying experiences. For him, it was getting injured in college playing basketball when he thought
Hmm.
he was going to NBA. For me, it was the Marine Corps, and I've moved quite a bit. So it's those kind of things that we talk through. Temptation, one of my favorite ones, because this one, again, was written specifically for teens. And this one was just talking about we face temptations just the same way Jesus faced temptations. He faced, as soon as he came out of the wilderness, is where we start that one. He was in the wilderness for 40 days. He was lonely,
Hmm.
he was hungry. And then the first thing that the Bible records when he came out of this wilderness experience is temptation from the enemy himself. And all
Yes.
these things, what we did is we drew a parallel between what the temptations Jesus had. For example, when you're talking about, hey, jump off of this building, and
Hmm.
you'll be comforted by your angels. That temptation exists for us, and especially our teens today, because they're saying, hey, just you're lonely, but you have friends. Go do this. Go act out in a certain way, and you'll be comforted. And then we already talked about earlier what that looks like trying to fit in. So we walk
Yes.
through somehow Jesus being tempted in the wilderness parallels to some of the temptations that our teenagers see. So I believe I have 7 plans. One is called 9/10. I co-wrote that one with my
Okay.
brother, Dr. Clement Ogunyemi. This one's talking about the fact that we're told to tithe 10%, but a lot of times we're not told how to manage the other 90%. So this Bible plan just walks us through some
Hmm.
financial management practices. So those are just a
Which,
few of them.
yeah.
We have a few of them that I'll love to engage with, but I believe there's 7 total now. So I was trying to think of all of them off the top of my head, but
But
we have
that's
7 for
good.
sure.
That's good because all they have to do is to look for you. So that is
That's
wonderful.
correct.
That's awesome. So what I'm hearing from our conversation is a life transformed and a life that had the opportunity there was it's the proverbial crossroads depending on your choice, and it took somebody intervening because I go back to the assistant principal who had that intervention. Of course there's a parent, but we all know that sometimes uh, young people, we don't want to listen to our parents. Right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But when it comes to a village, it takes something along the way or someone just taking that moment to change the trajectory of your life. And can you imagine if we multiplied that? Can
Hmm.
you imagine if we expanded that? So it is so wonderful to hear the man of God you are for your wife and for your children, for your three children, because they have that from you. You had me at a love for reading. Okay. And keeping it in a family. Okay, if we can make that go viral, I'm like, go ahead. Annie, here's a closing question for you. Louisiana, gumbo. Mm.
Oh, I have a friend. Oh, she's from Louisiana too. We grew up. So me and her husband, we're in the same fraternity, Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity. And she gave me some gumbo. I had knee surgery 2 weeks ago, and she brought gumbo over, and I was like, you know what? I knew I loved you guys. That's oh man, I love gumbo.
Okay, I imagine that's a slice of heaven and a little bit of spice. A little bit of
Absolutely.
spice in that way. Of course, we are going to leave your contact information in the show notes, but please do go ahead. How do people get in touch with you and how do people find your plans on YouVersion?
Absolutely. So for my website, just go to www.parent-child-connect.com. If you can't remember anything else, just remember that website. You can go there. You'll see my blog. You'll see my YouVersion Bible plans. You'll see my books. Everything is there on the website, parent-child-connect.com. And for YouVersion, you do the same thing. Just go in and search for either my name, Olaolu Ogunyemi, or search for parent-child-connect, and you'll those plans will pop up. All of them that are there to include the latest upside down leader, and we'll love to have you there. I'd love for you to reach out to me on the website and contact me, and we've have conversations or collaborate if possible. I'm just all about trying to help build my community so we continue to inspire the next generation.
Absolutely. And I love the idea if everyone can just go out and buy your books. And even if you have grown children like I do, my sons, my boys, I still call them my boys. I'm a boy mom. That even if you have grown children, to buy the books and put it in the school library or gift it to someone who have new babies or young children, that could be part of the Christmas package. Exactly, right?
Absolutely.
So I want to thank you for being my guest. I appreciate you. Oh, Ola, see now, I had it at the beginning. Now I have to practice it again. Olaolu Oganyami, I want to thank you for being my guest on About This Life, where we are changing our lives one day at a time. Take care, everybody.